This moment since the day of the voice memo. Inside were divorce papers, already drafted, already signed by him. Claire's hands shook as she opened the folder. "Daniel, please, it's over," he said. His voice was calm now, almost eerily so. "I'll fight for custody, and you'll have your lover. But you'll never have me again." Her cries grew louder, but Daniel turned and walked toward the door. Just before he left, he looked back once more. "The only good thing you ever gave me was our children, and I'll make sure they never forget who their real parent is." With that, he stepped outside, the cool night air hitting him like a baptism. He felt broken, yes, betrayed, yes, but also free. The wrong voice memo had destroyed his marriage, but it had also opened his eyes. Claire thought she had changed his life by sending it to the wrong man. But in truth, she had given him a gift, the truth he had been blind to for far too long. Another man while our children slept in the next room. Tears welled in her eyes. "It wasn't like that. I was empty, Daniel. For years I've been living in this house, raising kids, going through routines, and you weren't there. Not really. You were buried in your work, in your deadlines. Mark made me feel alive again." The words stabbed deep, but Daniel didn't flinch. He had anticipated her excuses. "So that's it. You wanted more attention, so you threw away 12 years of marriage." Claire shook her head. "It wasn't about throwing it away. It just happened. And I tried to stop it. I swear I did." Daniel leaned forward, his eyes cold. "You didn't try hard enough." The silence between them was suffocating. Claire reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "I followed you," he said flatly. "I know about the—" "Yes, and I know he's not just some fling. You love him." Claire's tears spilled over now. "I don't want to lose you, Daniel. I made a mistake. Please, please, we can fix this. For the kids, for us." Daniel stared at her, his mind warring with itself. A part of him wanted to believe her, to cling to the hope that their family could survive this. But the larger part of him, the part scarred by her voice memo, knew better. "Claire," he said quietly, "the moment you said you couldn't keep pretending with me, you ended this marriage. You just didn't tell me." She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. Daniel stood, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. He walked to the window, staring out at the dark street. For 12 years he had built a life with her, brick by brick, and now in one careless mistake she had toppled it all. His phone buzzed, a new message. He glanced at the screen. It was from Mark Lawson. The text read, "She promised me she'd tell you tonight. If she doesn't, I will. You deserve the truth." Daniel froze. A chill ran through him. Claire hadn't told him voluntarily. Mark had forced her hand. He turned back to her slowly. "So, he was going to tell me anyway?" And in that moment, Daniel saw it clearly. Mark wasn't just her lover. He was trying to replace him entirely. "You were planning to leave me," Daniel said, his voice low, trembling with restrained fury. "You were going to take my children, my home, my life, and give it all to him." Claire shook her head desperately. "No, I wasn't. I didn't know what to do." Daniel's chest heaved. "You knew exactly what you were doing." The storm inside him finally broke. "You betrayed me, Claire, and the worst part, you let me live in this house day after day, thinking we were still a family. You smiled at me, slept beside me, and all the while you were someone else's." Her sobs filled the room, but Daniel no longer felt sympathy. He walked to the study, opened a drawer, and pulled out a folder he had been preparing for, stood in the doorway of his children's rooms, watching their peaceful faces as they slept. They were innocent, oblivious, and yet their entire world was about to crumble because of one wrong voice memo. Lying beside Claire later, he couldn't bring himself to close his eyes. The warmth of her body next to his felt like a lie. The marriage he thought was indestructible had been a stage play, and he had been cast as the fool. But Daniel wasn't going to stay silent forever. He would wait, watch, and gather strength, and when the time came, when the mask finally slipped, Claire would never see it coming. Because she thought she had outsmarted him. She thought she had chosen someone else over him. But she had underestimated Daniel Morgan. Daniel Morgan had always been calm by nature, collected, the type of man who thought through every decision before making it. But for the first time in his life, he carried a storm inside him, a storm fed by betrayal, silence, and the haunting memory of his wife's voice saying, "I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending with Daniel." 2 weeks had passed since the voice memo. 2 weeks of watching her lie. 2 weeks of playing the role of a clueless husband, while inside he catalogued every whisper, every sneaky smile, every unexplained absence. Tonight he decided the curtain would fall. It was a Friday evening. The kids were staying overnight at Daniel's sister's house, the perfect opportunity. Claire returned home from work, humming as always, placing her keys in the glass bowl by the door. She didn't know Daniel had already set the stage. "Wine?" he asked, stepping into the kitchen with a calmness that surprised even him. She smiled, slightly wary. "Sure, that's rare for a weeknight." Daniel poured 2 glasses of her favorite red, his movements deliberate, his heart a hammer behind his ribs. They sat at the dining table together, the glow of the chandelier softening the edges of the moment. For anyone watching, they were just a married couple enjoying a quiet evening. Claire raised her glass. "To us?" she said, her eyes searching his. Daniel clinked his glass against hers. "To truth," he whispered. That was when he slid his phone across the table. On the screen was the voice memo. He pressed play. Claire's voice filled the room, intimate, tender, damning. Her cheeks drained of color. She grabbed the phone as if she could snatch the words back, erase them before they echoed. "Don't," he said sharply. His voice wasn't raised, but it was firm enough to slice through her excuses. "Not tonight. No lies. I want the truth." Her lips parted, then closed again. For the first time in years, Claire looked small, fragile. She set the phone down and stared at her wine glass as though it might offer an escape. Daniel's laugh was bitter. "You didn't mean to betray our marriage, to fall into the arms of—" Leaned down to kiss his cheek. "Hey, honey, kid's okay?" Daniel studied her face. Her green eyes sparkled, innocent as ever, but behind them he now imagined shadows. Did she know she had sent the memo to him? Did she even realize the mistake? Or was she so wrapped up in her secret that she couldn't see the cracks forming around her? "Yeah," he muttered, forcing his lips into something resembling a smile. "Everything's fine." Over the next few days, Daniel became a ghost in his own life, haunting the edges of his marriage, quietly collecting fragments of the truth. He watched how Claire's phone never left her hand, how she lingered by the window late at night, whispering words too soft for him to catch. He noticed how quickly she slipped away under the excuse of errands, how distracted her laughter sounded when she returned. The voice memo echoed in his mind on repeat, clawing at him, demanding action. "I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending with Daniel." Pretending. The word cut deeper than all the others. Pretending that their life together was real, pretending that their marriage, their family, was something she still wanted. One night, long after Claire had drifted to sleep, Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The room was quiet, but his thoughts were deafening. He considered confrontation, imagining himself shoving the phone in her face, watching her crumble under the truth. But what then? Would she admit it? Would she leave? And what about their children? He turned his head toward her. Claire slept soundly, her breathing soft, her hair spilling across the pillow. She looked so familiar, so achingly beautiful, yet he felt as if she were a stranger. By the 4th day, Daniel's patience cracked. He told Claire he had to work late, but instead he followed her. She drove downtown, her car weaving through traffic with practiced ease. Daniel kept his distance, his pulse drumming with every red light. She parked near a quiet restaurant tucked between office buildings, the kind of place that promised anonymity. From the safety of his car 2 blocks away, Daniel watched as she stepped inside. 10 minutes later, a man arrived. Tall, confident, dark-haired. He greeted her with a kiss on the cheek, the kind of kiss filled with familiarity, not caution. Daniel gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. Every cell in his body screamed to leap out of the car, to confront them, to tear the charade apart. But he stayed rooted in place, rage battling with icy restraint. He needed to know more. When they finally left, separately, careful but not careful enough, Daniel followed the man. He memorized the license plate, committing it to memory. Later that night, with the help of a friend who owed him favors, he discovered the man's identity. Mark Lawson, divorced, project manager at Claire's company, known for his charisma, known for turning heads. The puzzle was complete. Back at home, Daniel Morgan was a man of routine. Every morning he brewed his black coffee before the sun was fully up, ironed his shirt crisp enough to reflect light, and kissed his wife, Claire, on the cheek before heading to the architecture firm downtown. Their life together appeared almost cinematic. 2 children, a well-kept suburban home with white shutters, and neighbors who envied their harmony. To anyone looking in from the outside, Daniel and Claire were the very definition of stability. But beneath the polished veneer of their marriage, tiny cracks had begun to form, cracks Daniel had chosen to ignore. It was a Thursday evening when his world tilted off its axis. He was sitting at the kitchen table after a long day, scrolling through his phone absent-mindedly, when a new notification appeared. It was from Claire. Not a text, not a picture, a voice memo. Daniel's brows furrowed. Claire rarely used voice memos. She was a texter, quick and concise, always preferring her thoughts to be typed. Curious, he pressed play, expecting to hear a grocery list or maybe a reminder about the kids' soccer practice. Instead, the voice that filled the room carved straight into his chest. I can't stop thinking about last night. The way you touched me, the way you whispered my name, it felt like I finally came alive again. I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending with Daniel. But for now, we have to be careful. Delete this after you listen, okay? I love you. The words hung in the air like smoke after a firework, beautiful and devastating all at once. Daniel's hand trembled, his thumb slipped, and the phone clattered onto the table. His heartbeat thundered so loudly he thought the neighbors might hear it. At first, he laughed, a hollow, disbelieving sound. Surely this was some kind of mistake, a prank, a missent message to a colleague. But Claire's voice was unmistakable, sweet, intimate, dripping with emotions she hadn't shown him in years. He replayed it, once, twice. By the third time, the denial began to peel away, replaced by a creeping, suffocating dread. Claire had a lover. The realization slammed into him harder than any physical blow. His mind replayed moments he had brushed aside, the late nights at client meetings, the sudden appearance of a new perfume she claimed was on sale, the way she locked her phone screen whenever he entered the room. At the time, he had chalked it up to the pressures of work and parenting. Now each memory twisted into evidence. Daniel felt sick. His mouth went dry and his chest tightened. He wanted to storm into the living room, to demand answers, to scream until the house shook. But he didn't move. Instead, he sat there in silence, the glow of the phone screen reflecting the hollow look in his eyes. That night, Claire breezed into the house with grocery bags dangling from her arms. She hummed a tune under her breath, her face lit up with the same gentle smile that had once made Daniel fall in love. She